Um, so Brad, obviously a lot of our conversations have been in the past stadium related and focused, of course. Now it seems like we're at a place, of course, having the mayor at the game and celebrating it being official, which is a huge accomplishment and congrats. But now we got to wait for the stadium to be built, right? I'm wondering what the kind of focal point of this administration view of the wanting to continue getting city member and people in the seats. Like, what is the view now that the stadium is not necessarily in the review, but less of a focal point until the stadium opens?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of work that still has to go in to make it. It's not like hey, get the stadium approved and then 3 years later, poof, it's going to be there. I think that's still going to be the focal point. Getting the same built. And getting it built on time and selling it, essentially is obviously this is it's a 100% privately financed building, and so the good news is we had unbelievable, overwhelming support politically and community leaders and everywhere throughout the ULA process was incredible, and that's all great. But now the pressure, I think for me and my staff is like, okay, how do we generate revenue off this to pay for it, essentially? Because a lot of very few professional sports stadiums and arenas these days are fully privately financed. Very, very few, and so the situation there is going to be all right. Now, how do we pay for it? And that's sponsorship. It's going to be premium seating. Those are going to be the two major revenue streams. Obviously, we have general seating as well, but in terms of where do the dollars come from, it's sponsorship and premium seating. So that process we've been working on for well over a year to kind of tee up that. We'll have agency partners on both sides of this house to assist us as well. Companies that have had tons of success doing projects like this, but generally that's where all the focus and pressure is going to be on, and I think 2.5 3 year sales runway is helpful because we need that kind of time to probably generate the revenue that we need to be able to pay for the building. We're gonna have a lot of debt service on the building, and our business plan that we essentially have to give to our banking partners. We have to come through on that. So we say this is what we're going to be able to do. This is how we're going to be able to pay you back, and these are the numbers that we're going to do. And then once that's done and approved, then it's on us, it's on our team to go deliver that, and that's going to be the biggest focus is how do we pay for this thing, and that's an everyday conversation I have. I have meetings every single day now on it, and I probably will every single day for the next 2.5 years to get in on that. So plus all the construction stuff and everything to actually operationally get the thing built. So yeah, there's a lot of work that is still going to go into that. We're going to be, and something we'll invite you all to, and it's something that's standard practice for new buildings and new stadiums and arenas and things like that. We'll be building a preview center for the stadium, and which we're super excited about. So we've actually taken an additional full floor in this building, and currently demoed the entire floor and are under construction right now. It's 12,000 square feet. About probably half of it will be office space for stadium sales team and then stadium operations team, and in the middle will be about a 6,500 square foot preview center, which essentially will share the vision of the stadium, and that's where we'll be bringing potential corporate partners and suite holders and premium seat holders and things like that in there to show them the dream and what's coming down the pike and get them excited about supporting us. So that's going to be a process. We'll probably start end of the summer. give or take Labor Day-ish. And then that place will be in use for the next 2+ years, and hopefully full of current fans, future fans, businesses, et cetera, that are excited about this project. When I was in Nashville, we have a company that's designing and building. Ours also is doing the Titans' new stadium, and so like I said, standard practice, all kind of new builds do these things. So I went down and took the tour of their facility they call it Titans House. Very impressive, very impressive, and so I'm really excited about ours as well. So there's a lot of work to do from stadium standpoint. I think we will, once we're really breaking ground and moving forward, you'll see more kind of overt marketing about towards the stadium, or especially new business. Put your deposit down, for seats at the new stadium. That kind of marketing push to try and to build up this waiting list. But the good news is we have about 2.5 years to sell it, and so we think over that period of time, and with all the positive momentum that our club has, but that soccer has in this marketplace right now, that will continue. That wave will help us get to the point where we'll have sufficient demand that will exceed the supply of what we have to offer in the building.
One of the things that came to me is, if you look at the NFL system, the NFL basically on a Sunday, you got a 1 o'clock, you got a 4 o'clock, you got an 8 o'clock, 8:30. One of the complaints that I'm hearing from fans right now is that there's too many Saturday night 7:30 games going on. Do you see anything on the calendar basically saying that might change to spread it out so people can basically use their MLS season pass to watch more than just the one team that they want?
I think it will change, yeah. I think I'm hearing similar things. I think the league and Apple are hearing similar things. That whereas last year, it was pretty much told the teams you're playing Saturday at 7:30, with no deviation. As you see, we're playing this Friday. We played a couple Friday games. We played a Sunday game. We'll have it, and when we asked the league, like, can we play Friday? Can we play Sunday? And there was zero pushback. It was like, hey, we'll talk to Apple. Yeah, great idea. Like, it's kind of test and learn, and let's see how those, there's one window. It's almost kind of like a Thursday night football, right? It's only the one game to stand out. And we've been the only Friday night game for the couple of weeks that we've played. And so I think that, they're in test and learn mode. I will say, I give it to the league and Apple. Like, they're willing to try everything. Like, everything's on the table, and they're constantly trying to learn what's working, what's not working. But I think that when you have 10 games on simultaneously, that's not great. I've told people that we may have talked about this before, but my trivia question from last year, that the most watched team on Apple TV last year was Real Salt Lake, and everyone's kind of like, why? And they weren't even like a top, just because they were the only mountain, kind of time zone game. And so when all the Eastern time zone games were finished, or the Central time zone games were finished, it was the only game on Season Pass. So people were already watching soccer. They're like, what game's still on? And it was always the Real Salt Lake game. And so they just switched it over, and they watch the second half of the Real Salt Lake game. And they end up with the highest, the highest ratings. And so it speaks to your point. It's like, obviously, games are on and someone's already on the platform. It's like, how do you keep them on the platform? And also, how do you just become more of a fan of the league as a whole? So I think for sure we see more changes like that, and over the next couple of years, and more of this kind of test and learn mentality.
One thing that we see some European leagues at least thinking about is hosting league games in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
We see some of the other American sports doing the same overseas. There's also some language in some of the pre-development documents around the stadium that seems to allow that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that the league is looking into perhaps in the future? Hosting league games, not preseason games, or those kind of little tourneys, elsewhere outside of the country, to kind of help build that brand.
Yeah, not currently, but I could see that happening at some point. To your point, all the other leagues are doing it. I think that it's not, but I've talked to MLS about it. honestly, I've proactively asked them over the last couple of years, like, let's do a New York City FC game somewhere else. Like, we're the Wanderers. Like, it's like, we haven't had enough home stadiums. Like, let's try to have some more. But like, we have a hard enough time finding dates, for games. So I'm kind of like, hey, if we can go play a home game, in Mexico City, or we can go play a home game somewhere else in our current world, like, I felt we should look at it. The way the economics of those games work in other sports, whether NBA or NHL or NFL, MLB, is the league, for all intents and purposes, buys the home game from a team. So they'll say, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you have a home game, and they want to take your home game and put it in Germany, and you average $7 million, home gate or whatever the league might say, we'll give you $7 million per game, and we'll just take your game. You don't have to worry about it. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you make $2 million. They say, we'll give you $2 million for your game, and we'll put it in London. And then you don't have any expenses. You don't have you get everything covered. And then the league takes that as an asset, and the league monetizes that asset. MLS, right now, I think the response that I had is that's not something that they're able to do at this point in time, and they're just probably not the bandwidth with everything that, in the last 2 years alone. It's like they started a whole new league, MLS Next Pro. They started a whole new tournament like League Cup. They've done all these, and they continue. And the Apple, not to mention Apple, so they're doing huge things in the league and onboarding all these things. And their response to me is kind of like, Brad, we got enough on our plate right now. But down the road, could that be different? Maybe. Having said that, I think that the advantage for us, or the interest that I would have in it, is in a scenario where we already have trouble finding dates in different places. And so if the league wanted to pay me a guarantee and take a game off our hands, and go market it somewhere else, position it as, how about playing Vegas? How about like test drive for some of these potential future MLS expansions, like wherever else, Phoenix, would like take a site that you want to go to and put in New York City FC home game there. And then maybe our fans would love it. Like, hey, game in Vegas. It's just like NFL fans do now when they get to go to London or they get to go to Germany. So that was kind of an idea over the last couple of years. Hasn't gained any traction. But 10 years from now, like, do I see MLS games like being played overseas? I think probably. I'd be surprised if they weren't. And so yes, as it pertains to that kind of pre-development agreement, I think the language in there was with no preconceived thoughts of something specific happening. It was just in case, like have ourselves protected in case the league or some scenario that is unforeseen at the moment comes up, that we're covered up on that, but nothing like kind of preconceived. When we're spending a lot of money on the stadium, a lot. We've wanted, our fans and our players have wanted a new stadium forever, since the beginning of this club. When we get that, we're going to play every freaking game there. Like, we're not going anywhere. We're not moving anywhere. We're not moving games anywhere. We're not trying to play. We're going to play as many games as we can possibly play in that place.
So I think that for all of our audiences there, they are fixated on what happens on the field in terms of players, results, and things like that. That is not your job. So I'm wondering if, for our leaders, you could kind of pie chart what your responsibilities are, what your time is. What do you do as the president and CEO?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ultimately responsible for everything that happens with the organization. So, I think now obviously I don't have a background in scouting or player development or anything like that, but I know you guys have covered team closely. Like, I spend a good amount of my time working with the daily and the team on that side, not talking about player stuff. It's more, the way I look at it is how can we work to provide, whether it's the sporting department or any group within the organization, the resources and the tools that they need to be successful in their area. That's the way I look at my job as CEO, whether that's with Dave Lee, or that's with Jenna Sullivan, our COO, or with Andy Widdowson, our CFO, or Sam, or who, you know, go on down the line. Like that's the way I view my role is working it with every group we have in the organization. But I think like support and relationships for obviously our product is soccer. And so for me to not be close to our product, I don't think would make sense. I think that I need to be close to the product and be involved and be knowledgeable enough about being able to be included and involved in the decision-making process for major decisions in any area of the business, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's, you know, whether it's sporting. So, you know, pie charting on my time. The beauty, I guess, of kind of like working in sports, and for me, like in this job, is it's different like every week, pretty much. You know, last week it was sporting heavy because I went to LA and Nashville, and so I was with the team like, you know, for the whole week, and I'm still calling in and doing, you know, and the various other meetings and calls, but you know, it was more kind of heavy. You know, spending time with Dave, spending time with Nick and the coaching staff and support staff and players, and being close to the situation there. This week is tons of events at night. We're doing a big sponsored dinner tonight that we do quarterly, where we it's really neat. We talk about issues, you know, specific topics and issues. We do like a roundtable discussion with experts. Tonight's topic is around marketing the Hispanic consumer in New York City, but it's not like necessarily through the lens of New York City FC. It's through the lens of, you know, the healthcare industry and the consumer packaged goods industry, and, you know, so on and so forth. Like wherever our corporate partners are, and where, you know, if that's a specific target market for them and something of interest for them, you know, they're coming to this event, and we're having a good conversation about it, and sharing best practices and how we go about things. Have a World Cup 2026 organizing committee event tomorrow night. You know, it's just like something kind of like things are like all over the board. Obviously, you know, my highlight of the week is spending time with you guys here today, but you know, so it's something a little different. You know, stadium related businesses is every day, every week, I would say. So I'm split, I would say, between stadium, current business, like, so the way, you know, I like the 2024 season business, you know. Stadium, I would say, is split into things that are construction, budget, design related, and then things that are, you know, like sales and marketing related, like we mentioned earlier. And those, that's probably still a lion's share. 24 season, 25 season, I would say separately. So we're already, you know, we do plans on, you know, budgeting, business planning, things like that. For the 25 season already has started. And then kind of the sporting side, so it's a little bit of a mix and changes from week to week.
From a PR perspective, in this particular case, there's been some concerns a little bit from the lack of mainstream media in New York City when it comes to this team. We had somebody from the Post here earlier, I know that,
Yeah.
But from like the Daily News, CBS, NBC, Fox, do you see that changing at any point? Do you see that something that's going to change in 2027? What's your thoughts there across the board?
I think, yeah, good question. I think generally my thoughts on this is that if I was running a media, or, you know, one of these media organizations, or any company, I guess, generally you are trying to cater your product to your target consumer. And I would say kind of legacy mainstream media, their target consumer, for the most part, is not our target consumer for the most part. Their target consumer, you know, is I think generally skews older, you know. It maybe less diverse, depending on the outlet, depending on the market, you know, like, you know, whether, you know, obviously newspapers have gone digital, and, you you moved to a different direction that, brought, network TV or, AM, radio stations or whatever, typically have a different demographic following than the people who follow you guys and the people that we as a football club proactively market to. Doesn't mean that there aren't people in their 50s and 60s that like soccer or that come to our games or support the club, because obviously there are. But the target, the media groups that really say that they over-index on covering baseball. I guess baseball and soccer have a extremely
Baseball's
different
average age, I think, is
demographic.
57.
Yeah,
I think soccer's like 42-ish, maybe even younger.
younger, younger, and our target demographic is even younger for us as a club in terms of where we're proactively trying to find it. In general, like you can't be everything to everyone. We don't have no one, and it's impossible in the city, especially for us to market in a cost-effective, efficient manner to lots of different demographics. So you got to be very targeted. And so for us, the way that those targeted demographics are different than most of the kind of like mainstream media. And so it doesn't really surprise me. And also think about who the decision makers are in those places. They also are people that have been in the industry generally. I'm making generalizations, and I don't want to just be full broad brush with all this stuff. But been in these kind of roles in those kind of industries for a long time, for decades in many instances. And so, they have, soccer wasn't a thing then. And unless their readership or their viewership is demanding more soccer coverage, there's no reason for them to change their ways. And in many cases, I believe that their readership or viewership are not the demographic that is as interested in soccer. And so the people that are interested in soccer find other means to get their news and their information. And I don't know that, and we'll see, we see where it's amazing. It's such a fractured landscape now from a media standpoint. And, I've come full circle. Like for us, it's, we don't go out of, would we like coverage from, major broadcast networks? And sure, of course we would, because we'll take, if someone wants to give us coverage, we gladly take it. Is that going to really move the needle with our business? I'm not really sure that it would, because the people that go to those outlets are probably not the people that are the people that we're targeting for our product right now. For the most part, there's a broad brush of answers, and again, it's not absolute, but that's the way I feel about it. So, would I like it? Of course. Am I super upset and pounding Sam every day about why we don't have it? No. I think you guys provide a ton of value, and people that are really interested in stuff, they consume what you guys put out, and that works. It's the new world order. Everything about media is, I think.
Earlier you spoke about NYCFC possibly playing in where MLS intends to expand, let's say Vegas, right? Next Sunday, NYCFC will play for the first time in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on a bit on how historic that match is going to be for NYCFC, for the club in general?
Yeah, I love going to other, we love going to other markets. It's unfortunate in some ways that obviously it's great that the league continues to expand, and there's so many markets that are interested in and can support an MLS team. And I think, by the way, there's many more markets out there that also could support an MLS franchise. So I love it, going to new places and being able to play. The downside of it was, it used to be a very weighted schedule where everyone played everyone, and now you could go years for us without playing a certain Western Conference team, many years. And so we've been looking forward to playing Awesome since they came in the league. I think especially, we still have good relationships with, they have some alumni, some New York City FC alumni. They're both players and staff that we have good relationship with. Like I see we were at Coachella this year for preseason. They were there at the same time, so run into Brad and Ringy and some of the guys on their staff that came from here. So that's pretty like I think that's more of the excitement from our standpoint of like, hey, it's cool that like it's almost like these guys are they got some NYCFC flavor to them, and so I think that's the real exciting thing. And playing new venues, new markets. I've been to when we were kind of doing all of our stadium venue research. Because unfortunately we had not played there, I was like, I got to go see the stadium. So a bunch of us took a trip and went and saw a game, two seasons ago there on a Wednesday that we were off. So we just flew to Austin just to go see a game and get a tour and take an experience. And it's an amazing fan experience there. So I think it's going to be exciting. Hopefully lots of our fans will go because it's a fun place to go and it's got that great reputation. So hopefully we'll be well supported with our away fans there.
Scott was talking about kind of who you're marketing to and how you're marketing. I kind of want to talk about what you are marketing. Last time we spoke was the day after you guys released this new rebranding. I love it. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
Now you've had time to kind of digest a little bit and also just kind of want to talk about that and also in the context of MLS, right? You have to create an identity as a team 10 years on in this city of all cities and also be a part of MLS. And I'm wondering kind of like what you think you are marketing and also how that fits into the league.
Yeah, really good questions. I think generally when you are in any kind of like marketing a product or a service, and a company goes through some kind of like rebrand, you're not expecting it to have immediate dividends, or that all of a sudden someone that wasn't interested in that product or service yesterday sees something and now they're immediately interested in. I think it's more of a long game, and ideally for us, where it's like positioning us for the future in a way that would make us most attractive to our target demographics. Going back to the demographics we talked about. So, painting broad brush here, but using, Roosevelt purple and neon yellow and all these other things probably aren't, attractive to the demographic that watches baseball and follows baseball on certain legacy media formats. So we're obviously doing things, and we're doing our typography, whether it's the typographies, the colors, and so we were presenting the brand in a way that we believe will be more interesting and that will drive to our target demographic and will ultimately drive fandom. I think that combined with telling the story of soccer is on this, it continues to be, not just, it hasn't just started, it continues to be, it has been for some time, but in case you weren't aware, soccer is already very big, and it's only getting bigger, and telling that story and almost making it in some ways, I think, safe for people who are already interested in soccer, already soccer fans, to be like, yes, like I want to follow New York City FC. And I say safe, and I use that word specifically because our data suggests, we know that there are over 6 million people in our kind of direct drawing area that self-identify as soccer followers or soccer fans. And this is through our market research data and Nielsen data and other data services that we work with and subscribe to. So, I mean, if you just take people who already self-identify as soccer fans or followers in the New York City area, and you made them a U.S. city, they would be like the third biggest city in the U.S. or whatever. So, like, then to me, that says we have an incredible opportunity. We have people in this marketplace, a lot of them, that are interested in soccer. So, but are they interested in soccer because they love Messi or they love Ronaldo or they love Barcelona or they love Man City or Man U or Liverpool or et cetera, et cetera. Then how do they get to know about us and then ultimately love us? And that's obviously a long game. That's playing the long game. Stuff like that does not just happen overnight. But we do feel that the timing of this going in, doing rebranding early 24, there's some evolution to the rebrand, so there's more steps to come soon, and then say soon even this season, and then more to come next season, to kind of get us through this whole complete rebranded, the cycle of the rebrand, position us in a way where when soccer is being is being elevated in the marketplace and across the country as the primary water cooler talk, like it is right now. I had a meeting 53rd and Park earlier today from and I walked there. It's hot, and I walked back, and every place that I looked in that had a TV, every restaurant that had a TV had Euros on for the 12 o'clock games. Pretty sure that they also had their TV on Euros for the 3 o'clock games. I mean, willing to bet that those places will also have a Copa game on at 6 and at 9 tonight as well. So everywhere you're going in the city, it's soccer all day, all night right now. To me, that's great for us. Some people say, "Oh, how does MLS and how does New York City FC cut through that?" Because everyone's talking about Europe. For us, it's a long game. It's not like, all right, hey, wait, guys, we have a game on Friday night. Let's figure out how to take advantage of it for this Friday. To me, it's more about people are talking about soccer. People are watching soccer. People that are normally not really paying that attention to it. It's the thing that everyone's talking about. It's the thing that they're watching. It's the thing they're doing right now. And then when that is when we're through this over the next 4 weeks or whatever, or 3 or 4 weeks when these finish, then the soccer is MLS and soccer is other big games. And I think that ultimately for us, I think we want to be positioned as, if you love soccer, or if you like soccer, or if you're interested in soccer, and the reason you're interested because you like watching Messi when he plays on TV, or you like watching Ronaldo when he plays on TV, or you like watching Barcelona or whoever your team is that you follow in Europe, or your team that you follow in Brazil, or the team that you follow in Argentina. If you live in New York, you can come watch soccer, high caliber, high level professional soccer live, and get that live experience in your backyard by following us. And you can still be a fan of you can still be fans of these teams that you were following before. We're not asking anyone to drop them and only be a fan of the New York City. Beauty of soccer. That's not the case in basketball or baseball or whatever. Soccer is the only sport where it's commonplace to support multiple teams in multiple countries, everything like that. And so for me, with the roots and the diversity that we have in the city, people from Mexico, people from South America, people that have European roots that have the teams that they follow, that their parents follow and their grandparents follow, whatever. Awesome, keep on. But you're not watching them play live in person because you live in New York and that's Argentina or that's Brazil or that's Italy or that's Spain. But you can hop on the 7 train and come see us next Wednesday, or you can hop on the BB or whatever, come see us play on Friday night and get that experience. And oh, by the way, in 2027, you'll be able to get an authentic soccer experience in a purpose-built soccer-specific stadium that is the first one ever in the city, and you can be a part of that. You can be a part of history. You can be there from the beginning, and have that be a legacy going forward. We think that with everything that's happening in the sport over the next 3 years, if we position our brand also in an attractive way to those people, that all that together, it's gonna really elevate the club. That's the hope. That's the plan. We're just trying to put ourselves in the best position possible to be successful in the long term. And by the way, give a lot of credit to our own ownership group, our stakeholders, to have to be able to take a long view on all this, and obviously they have to with the investment they're making in the stadium. But I mean, I've worked in the sports industry my whole career, and I've seen, you know, ownership groups where like they only care about like the current season or the next month, you know, or whatever, and like, and they're not thinking in the long way. We have the good fortune with our group that they bought into this club 10 years ago, and about this or more than 10 years ago, but we started 10 years ago in this club in this country, because they're like, they knew that soccer in the US was going to go like this, and it was, but to realize, you know, the benefit from it was going to be being in it for the long haul.
Chris, let's get this guy on.
You mentioned 2027, you know, and alluding to the stadium being ready. The environmental impact statement that was presented to all the different city agencies had construction beginning in March, excavations and foundations, and now I think Glenn was saying that expecting groundbreaking in September. How is that schedule looking? How confident are we that the, you know, kind of keeping to that first MLS game early 2027?
Yeah, very confident. So early 2027, that's the plan. Ultimately, this same construction should be 30 months from the time we start really getting into the ground. Like the good news is I mean, everything is going to be ready to go day one, and so all the work that's been done from that standpoint. So, you know, 30 months from, you know, using rounding up, say October 1 will be April 27, let's just say. So, you know, I think that there are ways that we can, you know, we can move the time frame forward. You know, these are all also based on Monday through Friday, 40-hour week work weeks, and just as one example, right? You know, this kind of thing. So there's you know, tons of ways that you can move, you know, move timelines forward. I think generally you see with projects like this, most teams in every sport, like whether it's arena stadiums, like when you're opening a new building, we'll start with a road trip, you know, sometimes an extended road trip, just to make sure you buy yourself enough time, and you know, and you're ready to go. So, you know, by the way, we've started on the road every year for at least the first 2 weeks of the season, every single year. So I don't think that will change in 2027. Like we won't be like hustling to like have, you know, open the new stadium, but in February. But I think you know, our plan fully right now, and we're very confident that we would be able to play a full season at the new stadium in 27.
Speaking to that, New York is well known for ambitious projects that go way over budget and take much longer than expected. The announcement of the stadium, I think, took longer than people had hoped or expected. You know, they thought that might happen in the first few years of the existence of the club. It took a little longer than that.
Yeah.
But once you made the announcement, it seems like everything has kind of clicked into high gear.
Yeah.
What is the secret sauce behind being able to execute that large of a project here in New York?
Yeah, good question. I think generally, in some way, you know, this is one of those, you know, which side of the coin you want to look on. The reason I think that everything went so smoothly from the time we announced it all the way to here so far, and obviously I hope it continues to go that way and expect it to continue that way, it's because of all the work that was done leading up to that, and especially like, you know, all getting consensus and near unanimous kind of support for it politically and at a community level. You know, I don't know if anyone who saw any of the clips from the city council meeting when they, you know, vote for it, you see like other city council members and like, you know, in their congratulatory messages, their voluntary, you know, congratulatory messages to Councilmember Moya. It was moving. I mean, yeah, his words were emotional when he spoke before the vote, but everyone else, you could see that like the consensus he felt, and that wasn't something that just happens overnight. You have the right people that have the right, you know, kind of relationships and influence, and that deliver the right project. Like if he was delivering a crappy project for Queens, like I don't think that it would have gone gone so swimmingly. You know, he was able to deliver what is going to be a transformative, amazing project for Queens, for Willow's point. But also having him and the other, even the folks at Community Board 7 were amazing, to work with, on the front end. And that was the first step, and if things were rocky then, that rockiness could have kind of carried over to the subsequent steps. So I think it was having the proverbial ducks in a row type situation, and which is a lot of work, and took a lot of time on the front end. And like our, Marty Adamman from our side is led all that component of everything, and he's masterful and kind of in his relationships in the city and throughout, and then kind of the way he does business. I think it was conducive to helping us get the outcome that we had throughout that process. And I think will continue to help us be able to stay on budget and stay on time. And it's not easy, like the budget stuff. I mean, you asked me a question of where I spend my time. I'm like, this stuff happens like every 2 weeks. It's, hey, we got to try and refine this, or we got to refine that. We're a little bit over here. Hey, if we go from tile A to tile B, we can save $182,000, and no one will ever know the difference. It's like that level of detail that we're in right now, and like trying to figure out how do we stay on budget, and how do we be able to get things. We're talking about the types of chairs we're in. This chair is $240, and that chair is $180, and we need 17 of them. And we all get in a room and we all sit in them and move around. And it's pretty comfortable. It's good. $60 times 2,000 chairs. That's real money. And so, I mean, but I think it's like the approach of like how at the team and how we're doing at the beginning. But that took a lot. Unfortunately, that took a long time to get it to the place, and then all of a sudden get the right group. But we had to find this kind of perfect storm of having a champion for a project in the district that they represent. We have a mayor that was willing to really get behind it, which we had a regime, a previous site, right? We had a regime change, and we kind of kill the previous project, and so and you have to have community board members that want it in their community, and you have to have dialogue that leads to understanding what's important for that community and how can we deliver that, whether that's green space, whether that's not having events simultaneously with your next door neighbor to cause too much traffic, whether that's having a school, an elementary school, whether it's whatever that new police precinct, like all the different things, community centers, what's important to everyone there, and trying to figure out a solution to make those things happen, so that you can get consensus and in our case get overwhelming support.
Yeah, you got it.
You mentioned getting, there's a market you're trying to get to, right? There's 6 million soccer fans in New York City, right? And I think in the sports world, there's a correlation between success and, fans being invested in a successful team, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of fans think that, just signing the biggest player is going to guarantee you success. But I'm curious more so, what are some behind the scenes steps that the team is taking to find success, and maybe not now, but 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's a common debate, whether it's internally with our club or whether across the MLS levels. Obviously, the Messi situation has been such a massive success for Miami and for the league and for any away team that hosts Miami. That the answer should be like everyone should just get a Messi. That would be great. Like if we had 29 Messis, then we'd be in business. Unfortunately, there's only one. There's only one GOAT, and that's and no one else would have that level of impact. Now, will other players have significant impact? I think yes, for sure. The trick is how do you, when you're team building, in the current rules and current environment with where with salary caps and in a league that is set up specifically for as great a level of parity as possible. That could change, at some point, the way the league is structured and players structured. And I'll give them MLS credit. I think that they feel that kind of they're open, that anything's on the table, and so the current, if I had to guess, the current structure that we live in today, is that going to be the structure in 2029 or 2030? I think probably not, because I think that there is a significant desire from a league standpoint, from the owners of the teams, to have to be able to evolve, to innovate, and to be more forward thinking, and in a way to more greatly be able to capitalize on what's happening now and what's going to happen, especially in 26, right? So I think that all could change. Having said that, historically, teams with big name players, so to speak, haven't actually performed very well on the pitch, from a one-loss record or from a championship level record. In fact, there was a point, I think it was last year, where they release all the salaries like twice a year, right? The MLSPA released those salaries. And the point, I think it was mid-season last year, when they released the salaries, the eight highest payrolls in the league. 7 of the 8 were the last 7 teams in the entire league in the Shield ratings. Literally the worst 7 positions. And so, from an MLS, from a New York City FC standpoint, until last season, but if you take that out, of our first 8 seasons in the league, year 1 we had the most big name players, the highest payroll, and the least amount of points that we ever had in the season. Year 2, we had the second most big name players, the second highest payroll we've ever had, and the second worst points we've ever had. Year 3, we had the third most, the third least, the third least. So in terms of it was actually an inverse correlation to payroll and investment in players and performance on the pitch. It's a reverse. It's the exact opposite. Whereas in the years we won, the year we won Cup in 21, and obviously made the almost again in 22. We had a team that we built organically, that was a team that had talent that was more well spread across, that had depth, that had young talent, peak age, veterans, had a nice mix of team, had culture, had character, had heart, and didn't have all that, and we beat any of the teams that did have the big names. And so ultimately, we try to think about how do we build teams like that. I think that probably the work that's been done over the last couple of transfer windows has been more about how do we build a team like we had from 19 to 22. And the work that built, so the team that was here in 15, 16, 17, the learnings from that led to in 18 and 19, in those windows, building a different kind of team, building a team that then in 19 through 22 was pretty damn good. And obviously, hoisted a couple of trophies. And so I think, there's 2 ways to kind of build, to really be attractive to fans. One is notable players, but based on historical, I'm not saying that it has to happen this way, but historically, those teams have not been successful on the pitch. And will they? Look at Toronto last year. They spent the most money in the league on 2 guys, and they finished dead last in the entire league. Chicago spent a lot of money on some players. They've not sniffed the playoffs the last couple of years. And so and again, it doesn't have to be that way. I'm just saying historically, that's been what's happened. But you can do that, and maybe you get fans. But then when that player leaves, like, are the fans really going to be fans of your team long term? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It would be Messi in Miami would be, I think, an interesting case study, and it depends on what they do, over the next 3 or 5 years, and who they sign and what direction it's on. I think the interesting case study, LA Galaxy have kind of like their brand promise almost to their fans is like they had Beckham, and then it's like, okay, then like who's the next Beckham, and then like they had Ibra, and then like who's the next Ibra, and like, and then they that's been kind of what they've done, but it hasn't really, in the last 8 or 10 years, really. I think their last cup championship was before we were a club, so I don't know that leads to the championship winning. So I'd say one way is to go get players, and maybe that's more of a short term, fix, and maybe a false fix in terms of like getting fans, because are they really there that are going to be with you in the long term, or is it they're just there for that player? Or you could build a consistent winner, which is what we've been trying to do, and I think what we've been successful at doing. Obviously with last year missing by 1 point, missing and breaking our playoff run, which we're displeased about, to say the least. But like generally having this situation where if we can say to potential future fans that this is a club that is a proven winner. We've hoisted trophies, but we're competitive every year. We're in the mix when it's all said and done at the end of every season. Whenever there's a competition, whenever a trophy, we're in the mix to win it. And we play exciting football, hopefully, and all these things kind of go together. That's attractive for people, that they want to be a part of a winner. What we do when we have our preview presentation center for the new stadium, thing like that, we'll be talking about winning. We'll be talking about a winning tradition. We'll be talking about, this is a club that historically is a consistent winner, and consistently is competing here and at the top of the table, and that's what we expect it to be for the foreseeable future.
Can I jump in with just one last question?
We can do a couple more. I know you guys have traveled quite far, so we can go through the hour.
Well, so it's a little bit of a follow-up. In September, Miami is coming to town, and it's really Messi who is coming to town. So
Well, they have some other big name players. So.
They have some other ones, it's true. But you are selling out the upper deck of Yankee Stadium, and prices are dramatically increased from a standard game. This has happened across MLS. What responsibility do you have for Messi playing? Because it's a game that's being billed as a Messi game, but obviously he's on the other team. What kind of responsibility do you feel you have to your supporters and to the people who attend those games?
Interesting question, especially the way you phrase it. This is not something new, a new concept of a superstar in a sport playing a game on the road, in any sport. And obviously I had worked in the NBA for 15 plus years and had our share of superstars, and obviously worked on a team with arguably the biggest superstar in the league, in LeBron James, and maybe of all time. And so we had situations where played 41 away games, and LeBron didn't play 41 away games, every time, and nor did anybody probably, right? Like I say, take West games and things. So, and there, I'm sure that every night you're on the road, if LeBron James didn't play, or Kobe Bryant didn't play, or Michael Jordan didn't play, or Tom Brady didn't play, or which is rare, I guess, less in NFL, but I'm just trying to use other things. That's out of the control of pretty much anything, especially at the team that is the host team for an away game. So, I think generally the interesting thing, and I've seen this across the league, is that, and that's why I said before, that Miami has other notable guys that probably if the team didn't have Messi never did, but still had, Busquets and Suarez and Jordi Alba and others, like you probably still sell out a lot of games on the road. Like because that would still be the biggest collection of stars on any team in the last round. So, I think that the games that Messi hasn't played away, last year and this year, is there disappointment from fans in those markets? I'm sure there are. Did they end up seeing a high quality players and other star players and good matchups? I can't without remembering all of them. I remember last year the big one was Chicago. We didn't play in 77, and in Chicago won 4-2. It was an amazing game. People were going crazy. Atmosphere was amazing. And they still, and then they got. I think that Chicago had some, offered some make goods and some other things. So, I don't, I think from our standpoint, hasn't really been something we thought. We're anticipating that Miami will be here in full health and all of their players will be playing. And, it's one thing when you got to travel from Miami to Vancouver, that versus just Miami, New York. It's just a nice, easy little flight. I think we haven't really contemplated what that would look like other than, we're playing Miami and the game is NYCFC against Inter Miami, and whoever shows up for Inter Miami, I hope we beat their ass. So.
One easy one. Where do you see expansion going, say, in the next 5-10 years? I mean, obviously San Diego, but you look at Jacksonville and Maine have USL. Where do you see other MLS teams going?
So, the league has been on record right now saying that there's no plans beyond 30. And so I don't know. Well, I think that probably will be the case at least for the 26th season. So I guess, all right, like about 30 teams coming in 25. It'll be interesting. I think there's a lot of discussions and conversation on what is the league, what does it look like going forward. I think we have to figure out, the investment in players and what's going to happen with salary cap and DPs and like what does that look like on a going forward basis first before I think that they need to figure out that and what they want the league to look like in the kind of near/intermediate term. And then once that's figured out, and be like, okay, does it make sense to expand beyond 30 teams? But I mentioned before, I think there are plenty of viable markets, and in fact, and MLS I think is a great product for kind of the so-called one-horse towns or no-horse towns, like in Austin, right? By the way, I grew up in Sacramento, California. In 1985, the Kings moved from Kansas City to Sacramento, and then it's been one of the big success stories and kind of the four major professional sports leagues, like the support that Sacramento has been able to give to the Kings, who have been, god awful for, we're going on 40 years in Sacramento. We had probably 5 good seasons out of 40 years, and they still sell out every night. It's been it's just been an incredible success story there. So by the way, Sacramento I think would be a great market for MLS. I think that the Austins of the world, where you're kind of the first mover in a market like a Louisville, to me I think would be a fantastic market. I know there's kind of noise out there around Indianapolis, which I think would be a fantastic market. But I spent time in Cleveland. To me, Cleveland would be a great market. I think people aren't driving from Cleveland to Columbus for games. It's just that's just not really happening. But you get Detroit, another one big market that I think would there's a bunch. But I think finding, you mentioned Jacksonville. I think finding these one horse or no horse towns without going through a whole map. Haven't been given a lot of thought to it, but I think a ton of them can support it. It's just a matter of what makes sense for the league going forward. Does it? But whereas NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, I really don't see. I don't really see them ever going beyond 32. There's some of those leagues are at 30 now, which I do see going to 32. But I just don't know that there's markets because the number of games, you're talking about 41 games for NBA and NHL, you're talking 81 for baseball. Soccer is really palatable for those kind of mid-sized markets, small mid-sized markets that I think could just be powerhouses and just have an incredible atmospheres like we've seen in Austin. There, to me, there's a bunch of those towns.
Anything else?
On the stadium design, I know that recently passed conditionally through the design commission approval, and you can see in those designs where the founding members' wall is. Are there any details that you can share about that? And I guess even on a more specific level, I know a lot of fans want to know, are they getting?
Yep. I mean, our plan right now is fans will be getting a brick. We promised a brick. We're the founding members, I should say, founding members will be getting a brick. We've been in close consultation, I would say, with our supporters groups throughout this whole process and trying to figure out like what makes sense. Like there's some, the most traditional kind of brick, it's the greatest. It's on the ground, right? It's like like Citi Field has bricks on the ground, and like they take quite a beating, and also and also kind of tough to take a selfie unless you're laying down on a dirty ground, on your back and doing that, which people like to do. And so, but yeah, to get weathered, people are stepping on. It's not great. So in consultation with them, pretty much immediately we said, hey, we can either do it like traditional, on the ground, or we could build kind of a wall next to your facade of the stadium somewhere. And it was like very overwhelming to do a wall instead. Then is the wall going to be a brick wall, or is it going to be something else? But and essentially how are we going to memorialize those names? And so we're still kind of working through what that looks like. But the idea is we wanted to be somewhere ideally situated somewhat close to the supporters entrance, because with the connotation of the connectivity to supporters, we wanted to be big enough and at a height that was close enough that that people could take pictures with them and do it. And so there's a lot of thought that's gone into it. In terms of we haven't actually finalized the exact application. We've looked at a lot of different kind of memorial sites or different things like that you've seen, like in terms of like, are they indented, or are they engraved, like etched in, or are they like kind of pulled out or indented in, or what does that look like? We're still working through all of those, but ultimately we're really excited. I think, and the supporters groups have been super helpful in driving the kind of where the location and what look and feel is going to be.
It's only worth it if you work for it. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.